Now, I don't want to make the video that long, this too long, but like I said, it was almost like the roles switched, and now Trinity is the one who was able to fly and have the powers. So Neo, Matrix Resurrection, dope movie. We're gonna get into it. Had a lot of spiritual meanings, a lot was going on with the movie, but we're definitely gonna break things down for you, all right? Now, I was very excited when I first, just like everyone else, when I first heard that the Matrix franchise was making yet another video. I was a big fan of the first one and the ones that came after that. Very profound movie, talked a lot about what's happening, even what's going on today, talked about the nature of reality. This most recent Matrix Resurrection, I'm gonna kind of go in and kind of break things down on this with my spiritual eye, and tell you what I saw. Now, a lot of people, for whatever reason, did not like this Matrix Resurrection, this the latest installment of the Matrix, because, and I understand. I think a lot of people came in with the expectations that it would outdo the first one and it would be the best one of all time, etc., etc., etc. Now, the movie wasn't a horrible movie, in my opinion. This is coming from a guy who loved the first. Nothing beats the first. But now that I have my spiritual eye open a little bit more, I saw a lot more in this third installment that really broke down a lot of things and really showed me a lot of things. Now, this installment of Matrix Resurrection was essentially about the divine feminine. For those with a spiritual eye, they could clearly see that it was about the divine feminine. In this current reality that we live in, and within the nature of God, in reality on this particular plane of Earth, lies duality, and within duality you have the divine masculine and you have the divine feminine. And Earth for a long time has been ruled by the divine masculine, and the divine feminine has been pushed to the side. And when I say that, you can even look at the way our society is ran, and even you can even look out simply how God is referred to. God is always referred to as he, when in reality God has no gender. God is a balance of everything. God is everything. God is not a she, God is not a he, but God is a balance of masculine energy and feminine energy. Feminine energy is creative energy, is love and nurturing. Masculine energy is one of those energies that is an action energy. It builds, it protects, it plans. Is very rooted in the physical nature of stuff. But if you remember in the past Matrix, I'm not sure which one, it might have been the second or third, maybe even the first, when they went and saw the architect, and they basically explained the difference between Neo and all the ones and all the same Neos that came before him, the difference between him and all the other glitches in the Matrix that had previously came into woke consciousness and was able to break out out of the Matrix and wanted to free everyone and lead the fight. The difference between Neo and the other Neos before him was that the ones before him saw their Trinity, quote unquote, was the general population, as versus, and you guys can go back and kind of look into this. Hopefully I'm able to articulate this, but if you do remember that scene where the architect talked to Neo and told Neo basically that it was because of Trinity that made him who he was, because that who he wanted to love and protect at the very most bottom of, I guess, of his being was Trinity. Trinity is the one who was the first person that he met, the first person who kind of convinced him that of who he was and made him believe who he was. So it was her that drove him into receiving that power. Now, in this particular Matrix, Trinity and Neo basically are in the Matrix, but they don't remember who they are. Both of them do not have an account of who they are. So, needless to say, Neo and Trinity, both of them basically had their memory erased and they were put back into the Matrix. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but essentially Neo loses his power. He doesn't really know who he is, so therefore, since he doesn't know who he is, he doesn't have his power that he originally had in the Matrix. He was able to bend reality. He was able to dodge bullets, slow things down. He was able to fly. He could do energy wave, energy blasts, and so on and so forth. In this particular Matrix, he essentially just had like an energy shield, and he was able to push things with the energy, but he couldn't really control it to the degree he once had, and he wasn't able to fly. Like I said, it's going to be a spoiler alert. The reason I believe this movie was basically to show that the divine feminine, it was a movie about the divine feminine, is that at the end of the movie, Trinity they get into basically a crunch where he realizes who he is. She realizes he's able to convince her that who she is, because the whole movie and the whole premise of them surviving was based on her accepting him and believing him as far as who she was. So it was like almost like the roles were reversed, which I thought was kind of genius. And like I said, whereas in the first couple of movies, it was dependent on whether he knew who he was, it was now whether she knew who she was. And in the essence being the fact that who Neo is, and the fact that he needed her from the beginning, and she's the one who, in fact, was able to kind of turn on, make him come to the reality of who he was. That shows you that they work as a unit. That's a divine masculine, divine feminine. So in the end of this movie, he has to convince her basically that she is Trinity, that she is who she is. And they get into a tight spot and they're running away from the agents, so on and so forth. And they get to a point where they're all about to, mind you, in the movie there is kind of like a zombie scene where all the agents just are everywhere and they're like zombies. It's crazy. That goes to show you something. That's another topic I'll talk about. But needless to say, they're in a tight spot, and basically they're in a spot where they're about to get caught and die, and they end up jumping off of a building. And Neo attempts to try to fly, and he can't. Even though this is like his second or third time attempting to fly, he couldn't do it. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Trinity is the one who starts to float and fly, and it's almost like the role switched. Now Trinity is the one who was able to fly and have the powers. So needless to say, this kind of goes down to the reality that we're living in. It takes balance in life. God is not a man. God is not a woman. God is everything. There is the divine masculine and divine feminine. When a human is walking in both, which Yeshua, otherwise known as Jesus, people like Buddha, Yeshua, Saint Germain. These are all very balanced prophets or very special people. They were balanced in their divine masculine and divine feminine. That's what made them such spiritually powerful people. And the movie just is shedding light to that aspect of reality, which is the divine feminine. And divine feminine, you should think about it. Those who have more of a spiritual eye will understand. Now, the fact that the movie didn't have as much action, not as much gun scenes, and so on and so forth, a little disappointed. But like I said, having a spiritual eye, I was tickled and very surprised how the movie played out, and I did enjoy the movie. I did see it with my wife. Very dope movie in my opinion. I would implore you guys to still go and see it. But yeah, that's my take on it. The divine feminine. Pretty soon there's going to be a balance. Pretty soon the balance is coming back to earth, where the divine feminine is starting to rise and the divine masculine is coming back down to its place, and things are going to be at an equal level. And that's how life should be. There should never be one more dominant than the other. That's how life should be. Men and women have their roles, and I think the roles, especially in 2021, have been really reversed. There's a lot of agendas going on that are bending reality from what it traditionally has been. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Think of what I said. Go watch the movie. Go support. Love, peace, and light. Please do like, share, and subscribe if this resonates with you. And more spiritual content coming out and more trucking content coming out. I'll talk to you guys later.